Hey, welcome to Watch Complications. I'm Brian. Subscribe, hit the bell if you want updates. Check out the site watchcomplications.com and follow me on Instagram at watch_complications. This is a review video in my low-cost series. At the time I'm filming this video, this watch, in my opinion, is the best dress style watch for under 40 bucks. And there's going to be some pros and cons to it, just like there are with all watches, but I've looked at tons of them on all kinds of stores and Amazon and eBay's and blah, 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 blah. If you're looking for a low cost, quartz ready to go watch in the dress category, then you need to take a look at this watch and at least consider it. It's got a little bit more bang, it's got a little bit more of an interesting movement, and it's just worth taking a look at if you're in a search for this type of a watch. Got it on right now, looks pretty good. Don't worry, we're going to do an unboxing. I'm going to talk over the specs. We'll take an up-close look. And of course, we'll take a look at the movement inside of this watch. There's a couple feet of snow outside. We are in the chill of winter, and there's all kinds of things going on here at Watch Complications. So much stuff coming up in the areas of watchmaking, watch repair, watch review, watch modding, everything. Just tons of stuff coming up. So keep watching on the channel. I think you'll be entertained. I also put a poll on the community tab not long ago, and I wanted to see if people would like to see short 1 to 2 minute teaser videos for things that are coming up, because a lot of the projects I do take a lot of time, whether that's waiting on parts, making parts, testing things out, getting all the video done and editing. So it takes a long time to get longer videos out. But I wanted to see if my followers want to see short snippets, teaser videos, so they get some insight into what's coming, what I'm working on, and then the full videos later on. So if you're going to continue following me here, I would appreciate answering that poll and letting me know your thoughts on those sort of teaser videos. I don't know if it's going to help or not. I might just try a few, see how it goes, and if people generally like it or not. But anyway, let's get to the review. I haven't opened it yet. I just cut the package. Pull that away. So this brand is called Gallant. It almost looks like the Pagani design shield. It's another Chinese brand, mass manufactured, probably has other versions of this watch with a different logo, under a different name being sold somewhere. But the box is a little bit nicer than some of the other models that I've seen with these sorts of watches. It's got a more clean look about it, a little bit of a higher quality cardboard. It's not all beat up. So at least it has that going for it. Foam here. And pretty simple packaging, just foam. The watch is protected by plastic, looks like. It's got on the same sort of typical sheep mesh bracelet that you would have with these watches, or you can get with many of these watches. I'm going to change that and take that off. One of the other reasons I found this one particularly attractive is you couldn't really tell from the pictures, but these dials are recessed quite a bit. Has a really nice look about it, actually. Looks like there's probably a plastic cover on it, so we'll take that off in a second, get a good look at it. Relatively thin, polished all around. And it's Mecha-Quartz, so it has a little bit more of a sweeping motion to it. Anytime you usually see a low-cost watch with a Mecha-Quartz, it's a chronograph, so the chronograph seconds hand has the sweeping motion to it, while the standard second hand for the main time telling, which on a chronograph is usually at 6 o'clock, has the same old quartz, tick to it. So I like this look a little bit better. It actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to get another strap or two to have next to it and try it on those. We'll take the tags off and get an up-close look at this watch. So I've got this currently on the mesh bracelet it came on, but I want to get it off of here. But before that, I wanted to at least show it to you on the bracelet that it came on. It's this lower end stainless steel mesh, pretty horrendous clasps. I mean, they're okay. This one's signed. Sometimes they're not, Gallant. But I'm going to put this on a leather strap. I'm going to show you the options I considered. But first, the specs while we've got it on the original bracelet. This is called the Gallant Classic Series. The number for this is 37239-1. The diameter I measure on this is 41.46 millimeter. They advertise it as 42. So it's right there around 41.5. And it's just a great overall size. Fits a lot of people's wrists nicely. The lug to lug, important measurement, 46 millimeters. So again, nice and mid-range for most wrists. And then our height is 10.4. So the advertised diameter and height, 42 by 11, and it comes in about half a millimeter under on both those with my measurements, 41.5 by 10.5. It's great size overall. So lug width on this is 20 millimeter, nice standard size. We'll have lots of straps laying around that you can use to replace this mesh. The weight on this, because it is on this bracelet right now, is 78.45 grams. The spec sheet said 82. It's a little bit less than that, but a lot of the weight that you do feel is coming from the bracelet. Once this is on leather, it's going to be a lot lighter. Water resistance, you can see on the dial here, says 30 meters. So it's 3 ATM, 30 meters, 100 feet. Don't get this thing wet. I wouldn't dare put it in any kind of water, and if it was raining heavy, I'd pull my sleeve over the watch. The crystal is a mineral crystal, nothing fancy there, and the case material is a plated brass, and so it's got that chrome plating on it. Depending on how well it was applied and the environmental factors or how much you wear this kind of watch, chrome plating can tend to wear off and eventually that brass might start to show through. Don't know if that'll happen on this one or not. I might wear this one more than some of my others that I've tried in the past just because I actually really like the design. But it is plated brass, with the exception being the snap-on part of the case back, which is a low-grade stainless steel, and they often use that sort of as a marketing flair. Stainless steel back. That's just the snap-on portion, but again, it's a lower grade. Case back also mentions it's a Japan movement. It is a Seiko VH64, and I'll pop the case back off a little bit and show that to you. It is a Mecha-Quartz movement. I'm going to say more about this. It's one of the pros. You can see that the seconds hand has more of a sweeping motion as opposed to hitting on the dead seconds. So that is the movement, and the overall cost for this was $35.99, so we're under 40 bucks. You can probably get a couple bucks off here and there and get it around 30 bucks. It is a good looking watch for that price. All right, you all know I like having fun and just verifying what's inside of these things. So we are going to crack this case open, and like most snapbacks, you can see there is a tab right there for us to get screwdriver or some sort of tool under, pop that off, and then getting them back on can be kind of hard. You can sometimes get them on with your fingers, but it does help to have a nice subtle crystal press just to snap that thing back on the back, which crystal presses can be used for both obviously taking crystals in and out of cases, but also helping you put case backs back on. So I'm going to use one of my big screwdrivers here and just give this a little bit of a pop. Using the lug as leverage. Pop in here a little closer. And let's see what we got on the inside of here. And I was right. It is the Seiko VH64. Called it. You never know when you read on the side, but I was like, Mecha-Quartz did some digging around on the spec docs for these Mecha-Quartz Seikos, and voila. That is what we have. Again, a lot higher grade movement than you're going to typically see in these low-cost watches, which is why it's in that $30 to $40 range instead of the $20 to $30 range. But in my opinion, worth every little bit. Just gets you that more legit look with that sweeping motion, and I just wish more companies were using it more often. So that looks good. That battery should last a couple years, and that's that. Now I'm going to have to put it back on just to see what's in it. But hey, now we know for sure, and I like letting my followers know exactly what movements are in what watches, even in these low-cost reviews. So there you go. Japanese Seiko VH64. I will quickly add, I was able to push this one back on with my fingers. You just get it as square as possible with all sides being at the same height, not one side tilted or the other. And then just with both thumbs and standing up, usually just give it one firm press and it snapped back in that way. Didn't have to get the press tool out, which was good. As part of our wrist check in this one, another review I have coming up is on the Feynman 1 Cove. The original run of these is sold out now. There's a special edition still available, but this is a watch I've had on for almost a week, and I'm going to wear it for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to have a review and write-up and some pics and stuff for this watch. If you haven't heard of Feynman, take a look online about them. Singapore-based micro brand. This was their second offering. The first was called the Feynman 1, which I reviewed sometime back on the channel. So that's coming up in the near future. So when it came to the straps for this, the two that I really kind of came down to, one was a strap that I had put on this other low-cost watch. I don't wear it often, but I love this dark red crimson strap with the black edges and the white stitching. This is on a Songdu, which is one of the few, again, low-cost $20 watches I actually really like the look of. You can see this strap would look really good with this watch. We've got the black and the white along with this dark red tip on the seconds hand and the Sunday. So this strap would look really good on this watch. But what I want to do for this right now is put it instead on just a black strap with white stitching. Let me show you what this will look like, which I think even does better than the red. It's simpler, brings out the best, really gives it that finer dress look, and that looks pretty good, right? So a couple options that I thought about. Again, this one would look pretty good as well. Just has a little bit more of that bling feel about it as opposed to dress feel. So, you know, extremely casual. This might be a good route to go, but I'm gonna go for this little bit of a dressier look with black leather and white stitching. So this should be a quick little update that will just change the watch. Take one more good look at it on this mesh. No, thank you. Should be easy to remove. Plop out one side. Set that over there. And then these have quick release. Pop. And then we'll do this side. Pretty easy again. Pop that in. There we go. Now you're going to get a good look at this as I talk pros and cons on this much better strap. Actually, I'm going to weigh this. Be right back. It is 51.37 grams on this leather strap. So changing it from the bracelet to the strap shaved off about 27 grams. A lot lighter feel now and feels much more like a typical quartz watch you would get in this price range. Okay, so pros and cons, and we'll get a much better thorough look at it on this much better looking dressy strap. There are a fairly good number of pros to this watch and why I like it. One is this size, 41.5 by 10.5 in terms of diameter and height with a 46 millimeter lug to lug. Is just right there in the middle of what fits most people. It's an excellent fit to the wrist. The biggest thing this watch has going for it is that it's Mecha-Quartz. I wish more low-cost watches went for that few extra bucks, threw in a Mecha-Quartz movement. We're talking things like the Seiko VH, VK series, and why not use them more often? I think there are a lot of buyers who would be more apt to buy them, particularly mechanical watch lovers who want a semi-sweeping motion instead of hitting on the seconds. Why not use it more often? You might get more buyers for watches you don't have to worry about setting all the time. Yes, I love my mechanical watches. It's what I would prefer any day. I'm not a huge quartz fan. I only have a handful of quartz watches, and this one will get some actual wrist time, not because it's the best watch ever, but because it's something I can grab and go, everything's set, and it's got that semi-sweeping motion. Now, a lot of these low-cost watches that are chronographs, and I've looked at a few of them, they have a sweeping movement where the chrono second hand sweeps a little bit, but not the main timekeeping seconds hand. What I'm glad to see with this is that the watch actually has the sweeping for the main timekeeping. So yeah, hey, Mecha-Quartz, breath of fresh air for a basic timekeeping watch, and I just wish it happened more often. I like that this one also has sort of a subtle dome to the crystal. It's not perfectly flat. A lot of these low-cost watches, that crystal is just flat and it's a little bit more boring. This actually has a little bit of a dome to it, which gives it just a little bit more of a special look. What's also really cool is that this watch looks better than the pictures. And I'm saying that with this low-cost review because a lot of times a watch that looks a particular way on the website isn't exactly what it looks like in person. Of course, that's to be expected to a certain extent. These are low-cost quartz Chinese-made watches with a great Japanese movement, but it's just something that drives you a little nuts sometimes. You kind of don't know exactly what to expect until it shows up. Let me just show you one example. Here's one of the Songdo's. I kind of like this brand. It's one of those low-cost $20 quartz watches that's maybe worth trying at some point. But it looks one way in a picture. You can see that seconds hand isn't exactly orange. It's more of a peach color. And that kind of stuff happens. But this looks better than the pictures. For example, when I first saw this on the website, I didn't really get the sense that the subdials were recessed and had sort of this chrome edge around them. And I can show you that a little bit closer. I mean, it actually has a pretty good look. I didn't really notice the circular tracks here either. Almost looks like a vinyl record. So it's got some characteristics about it that just I didn't notice in the picture, didn't pick them up, where it actually looks better in the flesh. Another sort of comprehensive pro is just the overall design, the color, the layout. I don't have Roman numerals on a lot of watches. It looks good here. I like this long second hand with a counterbalance, and that the tip in red is a little bit longer than you might normally see on some watches. It's got a nice design aesthetic about it. Again, I mentioned the subdials recessed with that chrome edge, not annoying logo and text, and good balance overall. I do wonder if they meant to put water resistant instead of resistant water, so that may be a typo, but it is what it is. Just a really good, simple dress look that, looks a little bit better than, 30, 40 bucks. And that's the other really big pro with this is the cost. It's under 40 bucks. And of course, that's a little bit more than some of the other stuff I've looked at in my low-cost series, or in that $20 range. But this gives you that Mecha-Quartz. You can tell it's got a little bit better attention to detail with the dial and the layout and the design. So worth that much, I would say. Again, I paid $35.99. I think I may have got a couple bucks off, so I got paid about $32. And it's hard to argue with that price, and this is what you're getting. So what are the cons? Well, I mentioned the bracelet. It's always the case with these low-cost watches. The hardware they come with is never that great, whether it's a leather strap or these bracelets. They're just never going to be the best thing. So you always want to have something ready to go. And of course, with this being lug width of 20, there's lots of options out there. Plated brass for the case material. Would love if it was stainless steel the whole way. Of course, then we're getting into cost and trying to keep something in a reasonable price when it's mass produced. But if this had a nice solid steel case, wow. In fact, this might even look really good transplanted. Take the dial and movement out and put it into a nice stainless steel case. Might be in business there. So yeah, the plated brass. This hopefully won't wear off over time. This is one I'm actually probably going to wear on occasion, unlike many of the earlier ones I've reviewed in the low-cost series that either I give away or move along or just use for spare parts or just tinker with in terms of watchmaking stuff. Another con is that the date text is kind of small. I like that it's not all annoying, but it is tiny. You got to hold it a little bit closer to your face if you want to pick up exactly what date it is. Today's the 18th. The text on the day of the week is okay. Again, it probably could have been a little bit bigger. There's a little bit of space there, but the text is a little bit tiny. Not a huge con, but something to note. You can tell that there are moments of reflectivity because this one isn't just flat and it's a little bit of a dome, and because it's just a low-cost mineral crystal and you don't have any anti-reflective coating, that subtle dome just means it's going to pick up a lot more light and you're just going to catch a lot of reflection in certain ways. Now, it doesn't look bad on the wrist. It looks a lot worse in here probably on the video because it's under the lights and the camera and everything. But it looks okay on the wrist, but it does pick up light very easily, so you'll notice some moments of reflectivity. And then, of course, we have the lume that is not great on any of these watches. If I was to put this in a different case or something and pop those out of there, I'll just remove that lume, put some nice super luminova in there, and boom, good to go. I love that the counterbalance is loomed. So we've got the hour and the minute hand and the counterbalance are what's loomed on this. I'll throw up a picture. It looks okay, but of course, within just a few minutes, you could hold it up in front of a light for several minutes, 5 minutes or so, and then move it away, that lume is going to dissipate very quickly, and just within a few minutes you won't see it anymore. So lume is no good on these sort of watches, but that's to be expected. So those are the main pros and cons. I'm going to throw in the macro lens just to give a little bit of a brief up close look. Check out the printing up close, the chapter ring, and then we'll be done. I usually don't put low cost watches under the macro lens, or sometimes I have, I guess, probably. But let's take a look at this, see what we've got. Printing's pretty good. I'm sure that these markers, the Roman numerals, are applied electroform stickers, kind of what they look like. So those would potentially fall off if you got the watch really warm, or depends on what kind of adhesive they used. But they're probably just electroform stickers. So he's got that chapter ring with the minute track around. It's a contrast to the Roman numerals. See, the printing is, accurate. Those industrial pad printers. You can see that the Sunday is red. Again, that's sort of just there to pop along with that seconds hand. There's the counterbalance. The lume looks okay to the eye, no holes or anything like that. Again, I mentioned that date text is pretty small. So yeah, that's what this thing looks like up close. So it's got the grooves along with the numerals on that track, you can see there, which looks pretty good. Sometimes you would get imperfections with these sort of low-cost watches in those, but this looks pretty good. No big mishaps. It helps kind of having more of a matte look to some of this dial texture because of the slight dome and the light that it's picking up. But you gotta admit, this doesn't look half bad for $32, 30-ish bucks. No complaints. Looks all right. Okay, thought I'd just, for fun, right? Low cost watch, why not do a little bit of a macro look? One of the things that hit me whenever I was unboxing this, and as I've looked at it since, laying around on the desk and whatnot, is that the logo for Gallant looked a lot like the Pagani design logo. I'll throw up a picture of the boxes and stuff, but it made me think of it, this sort of shield look with this G, just like Pagani design. A lot of this stuff come from the same sort of factories, so who knows? But reminded me of that. Let me show you the crown. Give you that same sort of idea. Almost instantly makes you think of Pagani design, doesn't it? It's got a little flare at the top of the shield that Pagani doesn't have. And then the interior is a little different. The G is not connected to the outer part of the shield, whereas the Pagani, it is. All right, done with that. Okay, another low-cost watch review in the books. I really do like this watch. I only say that if I really mean it, and if I would be willing to wear it. Yes, I have a lot of nice watches. I prefer mechanical watches, but it's nice having a handful of quartz watches around. I will eventually do a video on quartz watches to buy, because there's a handful, half a dozen watches that are nice to have around, and this is one of those. If it's a nice semi-formal or dress occasion, it's got more flair and it's got a better movement than a lot of watches you're going to find in this low-cost category. So take a look at the Gallant Classic Series. It's a good option. Let me know what you think in the comments. I love interacting with my followers. If you're going to be hanging around, check out the community tab. There's a poll. It'll let you vote whether you want to see teaser videos for my projects that take a little bit longer. Subscribe if you haven't. Ring the bell if you want updates. Check out the site, watchcomplications.com, and follow me on Instagram at watch_complications. I am Brian. I am out.